Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Fisher?
Yes.
Clerk Newbeck here. Treasurer Brown?
Here.
Trustee Aliaga?
Here.
Trustee Nalamothu? Here. And Trustee Ritchie?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So you have an agenda in front of you. I believe there's a motion to amend, however.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend under agenda items indicated in the call of the special meeting, item G2, vote on trustee appointment and/or other action.
To add that, I'll support.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
What exactly does that mean?
It enables the possibility of a vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda as amended is approved. Any board announcements? None. Any members of the public have an announcement?
Announcement, or we can speak?
An announcement. Yeah. It'll be mere moments before you can speak. So now, public comment.
I'm Joette Cohenstein. I live at 9740 Reese Road in Clarkston. I'm not sure that I'm going to speak on G2, but how would I have known?
Right. That's why it requires a unanimous vote of the board to amend.
Can I still speak?
On G2? Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to endorse candidate Sam Morocco for trustee. I personally have ran for a trustee and I lost. So I know a little bit about what it takes to knock on those doors and meet your neighbors and do your very best and answer those questions of the township and lose. But that was fine. I agree with some of the other citizens that have spoken about the number of township board members that have resigned or retired over the last 6 or 7 years, but not at the end of their term. Thus, they've created for you making appointments. Government isn't representative of the people when the board is appointing trustees or elected officers. While we're not a democracy, we are a republic. In both, the people vote on who their elected representatives are, and this isn't happening currently for many of the positions. The board has a candidate that ran for office in the last election and lost by 41 votes, which is pretty close. It takes a person who cares about the township and believes he or she can offer their time and talents to the township before you run. It's not a fun job necessarily to put yourself out there and run, and because you can lose. Sam Morocco has the qualifications I believe people want as a trustee in the township. He's a small business owner. He lives and he works in the township. He's fairly young, and he's still in the workforce, and I think that's something. We are an aging community. He has 20 years of knowledge about planning in the township, and he knows that growth seems to be the #1 issue in the township, and if you ask people, growth does seem to be the #1 issue. I also believe that some of the board members think Sam is not a team player. Many of you know I'm a history buff, especially the American Revolution. And I want to tell you that the founding fathers were not friends. They were backbiting, they were name-calling, they squabbled all the way through. But each one of them had a unique talent and had many different talents. But they worked together to create this country. And that's why we have the United States of America. They were competitive, but they worked for the common good. So it doesn't take friends to be appointed. And we tend to want to appoint people who are like us, and that isn't always the best. I don't want all the township representatives to be the same. I want diversity in my elected officials, and I want them to see different sides of a problem so that they can solve the problem in many different ways and come up with some good solutions. The Founding Fathers were diverse, and I want the Township Board to be diverse. Sam Morocco deserves to be appointed as a trustee for the following reasons. He ran for the job. He's the only one that ran for the job. His knowledge of the township and planning in the township is a great asset. His understanding of the residents of the township. He works here. He hires employees here for his construction trades. He trains kids and students and hires them. His willingness to help over the last 15 years, including being part of the building team for the Senior Citizen Center. The contracting of the building for the Village Hall, which he did not make money on. Working with the schools on the restoration of the Bailey House. And if you have a door or a window, if you own a building and you're a nonprofit, you have a door or window that doesn't work, you call Sam. Sam Morocco has a track record of getting things solved and things done. So that's why I would like you to consider Sam Morocco for trustee.
Thank you very much. Let me just encourage everybody that is here that would like to make a similar remark about G2 to hold your comments until we're there, in due respect to the other candidates that we haven't even interviewed yet. I think that would be a respectful thing to do. But you were up there already, and it was, I didn't want to, but thank you. Okay.
So, Jerry?
Yes.
So what you're saying is we're going to interview the two candidates, and after that, we're going to have up into the floor?
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. All right, the agenda for the special meeting is trustee appointment interviews. We have already interviewed several, and we have two more candidates to interview this evening. The first being Justin Harrell, who is here this evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
And the way we have been doing this, and we want to be consistent with it, is you can have your choice of making an opening remark, and then we're going to ask a series of questions, and then the other alternative would be for us to ask the questions, and then you could make a longer closing remark. It's your pleasure.
Well, I can speak about myself briefly, because I'm sure no one in
Sure.
this room knows who I am.
Great.
I grew up in North Oakland County. I'm from Ortonville, lived there through high school, went to Grand Rapids for college, and then did some exploring. And when it was time to come back to raise a family, I chose this area. When I was a kid, we looked up to this city, all of us did. You guys always killed us in sports. It was just a great, you had all the music venue, the skiing, all the golf courses, all the parks, everything. We, as Brandon kids, loved this area. And when I was able to come back here, this is where we chose. My wife is from Ortonville as well. My parents still live there, her parents still live there. So we have a good grip of how this community is and the feel of this place. I have two small children. The daughter is 6, son is 5. I've been coaching youth football for my son for the last 3 years. will continue to do that. The passion for the little kids I have is just look at the smiles on their faces when they do well. They try to impress you. It's just a great feeling. So I think that, well, I guess that's there. But I'm on the Board of Review currently, as I'm on my 3rd term. I'm not a strong political person. I don't have a lot of political background. But my time on the Board of Review has been rewarding. Giving back to the township that I love. I think that I have the time now where I could, give more. My schedule's freed up a little bit. My kids got older, require my attention a little bit less at this point. So I do have more time now, and I think it's my time to give back. That's me for now. So yeah, with your questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start. In terms of personal goals, was there anything that has motivated you to seek the appointment of the township trustee position?
Well, I think I moved here. My personal goal is to try to preserve this place the way it is, which brought me back here. that's my personal goal for this position.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, all township board members, including trustees, are provided with a fair amount of written material to prepare for each board meeting. Do you have the time and interest to devote to this preparation?
I do, yes. Like I said, my kids are a bit older now, so I have a little more free time. And I do work from home, so I do have a pretty open schedule as well. And I think any serious person that would look for this appointment should be well prepared for any meeting, and whatever it takes to get well versed in the knowledge, I would definitely make time for that.
Thank you.
Next question. When you think about the future of this township, what are the most important goals that you would like to participate in bringing to reality?
I think we have to. I look at this area as a circle back community, meaning someone like myself who grew up in this area, left to do some exploring, like I said, then came back to raise a family. I think we have to continue to attract people that are from here to come back here. I read a stat this morning. It was more an Oakland County stat, but not so much this township, but we are in Oakland County. The population of 65 plus people increased by 40% in the county from 2010 to 21. And the population of 35 to 49, which I would consider the young family population, shrunk by 10%. So what makes this area great, one of the reasons is the school district. We have a very strong district here that's well respected throughout the state. And if we can't keep that place full of young children, then what happens to our town? If we don't have young families attracted to come back here, then we become a retirement community. And I don't know if it's not what I want, or the people that live here currently, if they want that either. I'd like to assume that they don't.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, what personal and professional strengths would you bring to the board for purposes of making informed decisions on a wide variety of local government issues?
I'm not a political person per se. I have a lot of political experience. So I guess my professional background, I've been a real estate broker for 12 years, and my wife owns a dental practice in Ortonville, which I am the business operations person for. So we have 12 staffers there, and we have a patient flow of 3,000 people. So I am there about 3 days a week. So I do see new people every day. We have a lot of conflict resolution in real estate for sure, and at the dental office as well. So I think I work well with people, new scenarios that are presented to me. I usually handle myself quite well. So, but if this board is seeking having a longtime political person to fill this seat, I'm probably not the guy.
Okay, Jose, did you want to give the finals?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
What is your biggest challenges? What do you think is the biggest challenge or challenges in our township?
Two things. I think that overdevelopment could be a challenge. I'm seeing a lot of. I lived here for 7 years, and the 7 years I've been here, I've seen 3 new subdivisions go in, and I lived in a suburb of Grand Rapids for 4 years, and it was very similar. There's a ton of growth in the culture of that area changed a little bit. I don't know if we need a new subdivision every year. Maybe we do. I feel that we don't. And I guess also back to what I said earlier about the population, I think we have to continue to attract young families to thrive in this community. And if that trend line continues for Oakland County, we are part of that county, that could hit us too. And what we have here in Hold Deer could go away. If we don't have new families coming in 20 years, what happens? School district changes. That's what I'm afraid of, this city aging, if you will.
Okay. There is a minute or two left if you'd care to do a wrap-up. You don't have to, but you've made complete answers, so your pleasure.
I'm just very passionate about this city, this town. I want it to stay the way that it is. I want it to continue, if I can help in any way to attract or just preserve what we have here, I would love to be involved in that. had something else, but I lost it. Well, also too, I think there's a wealth of experience on this board. I don't know any of you, but I see that it sounds like a lot of you have been here for multiple terms, and I think that if we have a good balance of experience plus some fresher faces or new blood, as I've heard the term thrown around recently, I think that could have some good balance. If our population ranges from ages 65 plus to young children, if we have a good balanced age gap or generation gap through the board, I think that could be a positive thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and expressing your interest in being here.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you very
Great to
much.
meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final candidate is Matthew Stoyan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, start.
And please have a seat and welcome to the Township Board meeting. We're going to spend the next few minutes together.
Okay.
And you can make an opening remark and then we'll ask questions, or we can ask questions and then you can make more remarks.
Okay.
What would you prefer?
I'll start with an opening remark.
Okay?
First off, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I know that you guys wanted to get through all the interviews last week, so I appreciate this chance I have. I want to give you a little background about myself and then touch on a little bit of what I love about Clarkson and then lead into why I'm here today. So my wife and I, we got married 12 years ago. We bought our first house, which is here in Clarkson, 11 years ago. And one of the first things that drew me to Clarkson was just memories of being back in high school wrestling. Anytime we would travel to Clarkson, or if we were to go on the road anywhere else, and there was a lot of schools at the tournament, if Clarkson was there, they always seem to have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, crowd presence. And I love seeing all the parents, the family and the friends, the community getting together and supporting, encouraging, and uplifting their students. It was so cool to see, because coming from Troy and a lot of local school districts, not just Troy, but we would all have the same number of wrestlers in the tournament, but we did not have the same number of parents in the stand. And I love seeing the camaraderie. The other thing that initially drew us to Clarkson was it's a great mix between Troy, where I come from, and up north. It's got all the development that you need to have all your needs within a short drive, but at the same time it's not overly developed. It's still got that small town tight-knit feel, and I love that feeling. So we moved to Clarkson, and fast forward to now, we've grown to a family of 5. We have 2 daughters and a son, all under the age of 10, and we've been getting pretty involved in athletics. I've been coaching wrestling at Clarkson High School for the last 4 years, as well as the youth club for that same time. 4 years ago, my daughter started doing cheerleading through Chiefs football youth program, and at the time when she started cheerleading, there was need for another cheerleading coach. And mind you, I had no experience or knowledge about cheerleading at all, but being who I am, I wanted to help. So I dove in. I learned as much as possible, as fast as I could, so that I could be, value added to the program, because that's who I am. I'm not just a seat filler. I want to be, a positive contributor. I always try to take something on and do the best job that I can do as possible. So that's why I'm here today, is that I see that there's an opening for a trustee, and although I do lack experience in government work, I am not scared to jump in, roll up my sleeves, and do the best job that I can do.
All right, thank you. So we'll now give you a series of questions.
Okay.
We'll pepper you with your questions.
Okay.
In terms of personal goals, was there anything that has motivated you to seek the appointment of the township trustee position?
So personal goals for me, myself personally, none. I don't want to sound cheesy, but there's no selfish ambition behind why I'm here at all. It's entirely based on what can I do for my community and my neighbors.
Thank you. Number 2, all township board members, including trustees, are provided with a fair amount of written material to prepare for each board meeting. Do you have the time and interest to devote to this preparation?
So, time and interest, let's call a spade a spade. I am busy. I am married with young children. I do have a full-time job. That being said, I am very interested in the environment that my family grows up in. I thank God that He's blessed me with a strong work ethic and a good sense of dedication that when I take something on, I put my best effort into doing as good of a job to make sure that I'm well informed with the information so I can take a good stance on the topic.
Thank you.
When you think about the future of this township, what are the most important goals that you would like to participate in bringing to reality?
So I would say that I have, as far as a long-term goal, I would say I want to support smart development. Again, as I said before, I love the feeling of having everything you need, but also not being overly developed. But that being said, you can't be too far on either side. People change, times change, needs change. If you're too much against development, a need might arise and you might miss the opportunity to support a local need. But at the same time, on the other side of that coin is if you're too open to new development, that brings in its own set of problems. On a short-term type of goal, I would say, is for specifically the board. You always hear in government, and not here in government, but in government in general, there's a lot of lying and scheming and backstabbing, all for personal gain, and that's people's tendency is to take care of yourselves. And here locally, we have a lot of changing hands, new trustee, a new supervisor, and with a lot of change, people feel uneasy. I want to make sure that we're all remembering that we're all on the same team. We're all working for the betterment of our community. That's the one goal that we should all have. We should all work together to communicate and support each other and remember that we have that one goal is the success of our township.
Thank you. Number 4, what personal and professional strengths would you bring to the board for purposes of making informed decisions on a wide variety of local government issues?
So professional attributes, I would say that I'm well organized and detail oriented. I work in my job is a fast-paced and at times hectic environment, and being in management, a lot rides on my decisions. Whenever I'm presented with an issue, I try to make sure that I'm looking at it from different perspectives and be sure that I'm well informed about what we're talking about to make sure I'm not making a knee-jerk reaction. I want to look down the road and make sure that the decision I make is good for the long-term goals and not just dealing with the symptom at hand. On a personal level, I would say that I'm in a different age bracket, so I'm not saying that I would bring a fresh perspective, because I'm sure you guys are all freshening yourselves up all the time, but I would bring a different perspective just being in a different life circumstance. On top of that, I try to look at everything from a loving and caring point of view, making sure that my choices, so who knows what the future holds, right? Only God. But I want to make sure that my choices that I'm making are at least going to set up for the best potential for a good outcome.
Thank you. Jose?
What is the biggest, for you, what is the biggest challenges for the township?
The biggest challenge for the township, what comes to mind is probably the same thing that comes to a lot of families' minds right now, would be inflation. Making sure that we're being financially responsible and budgeting properly. Making blanket statements is not a good thing, but in general, you always want to make sure that your repairs are taken care of first, then your maintenance, and then beyond that, you'd be looking at improvements and other desires that are not needed. But yeah, being financially responsible, and if we're not continuously updating the budget, at least continuously analyzing where we are in the budget to make sure that we're on track and acknowledging whether we're on or off track.
Okay, thank you. I think there's just a very short amount of time left. If there's one additional thing you'd like to say, no
Sure.
obligation.
Yeah, God bless you and your decisions, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that is all of the candidates. We can go to the next item on the agenda, which is G2. Just to open the discussion, I just want to say that I think we're so fortunate to have had so many wonderful candidates. This is going to be a tough decision for everybody, I know. And but thanks to everybody for coming out, and I hope you continue to have an interest in the township and want to participate. So I want to open the discussion on on the appointment of a candidate for trustee to replace the trustee position of Paul Brown.
Something for discussion within the board.
Yes.
Sure. Well, first I want to congratulate and thanks all the candidates that come and, sign up. It's a huge commitment, I actually personally work as a trustee for 10 years. What?
Excuse me
Yeah.
really quick. Do you mind if I have them close the door back there for the other noise?
Sure.
I don't know that we can be an open
Thank
meeting.
you. Thank you.
We can't really shut the doors.
No.
With it being an open meeting.
We can't?
Yeah, with it being an open meeting.
Well, they can leave that one open, but there was a lot of...
They're talking back there. Can we have the doors closed at an open meeting?
Well, we've got this door, so.
They're not locked. Someone
Yeah.
can come in them.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yep.
Thank
Jose?
you, Terry.
Sorry.
Sure. So what I was saying is a huge commitment, When you're a trustee, you have a huge responsibility, It is, because you have to read the package, be able to, look into what is there and make a decision for the township, for taxpayers. During this season, this election, I was knocking a lot of doors, talking with a lot of people. And a lot of people, I actually knocked at 13 precincts. I went to each precinct, and every day I would talk one or three, no, actually, for 3 or 4 doors, I would say, Jose, I'm very disappointed with you and the board because you guys didn't support San Morocco to get reappointed. And people told me, I want to see San Morocco on the board. It wasn't just one person, 2 people, 1 door. It was several doors per day. Because no secrets, I'm speaking publicly, and people want, and the reasons is they believe in stand and support the community. He brings a different opinion, but he cares about the community. No question about it. No question about this. He has the passion. He does have the passion. He cares. He's involved in the Bailey House. He was involved actually in the village, rebuild the city hall. He put a lot of time on himself. And that's what I call a public service. Public service is helping the community, not expecting to get paid, but do something about it. Sam doesn't expect, he does not have expectation to get paid to be able to do something for the community. He does things in his own heart. He cares. And I know sometimes we have some disagreement with Sam, but I see his heart is there to help the community. You see, when I'm knocking on doors, people appreciate that. And the reason I appreciate that is because it wasn't the first time I do this. I did it for several years. Because the salary trustee is not that much. Sam doesn't care about the salary, if we know. And every time he ran before for trustee, he always want to be trustee. This is not the first time he's asking to be considered for that position. He had been running consistently for that position. And he wants to be trustee. I know that because he wants to serve. And I actually want to make a motion today for San Morocco for Independence Township trustee. So I'm making a motion right now.
You want to make the motion before you hear the rest of the discussion and we hear the public?
Well, we make a motion and we open for, yeah.
we were
When you
having
make a
discussion, I'm
motion,
just
we
asking
open
that
for
question.
discussion. Everybody can talk after I make a motion, right?
They can,
Because, if
thought
somebody
maybe
seconded,
we'd finish
still, it doesn't
discussion.
mean you're voting, it's just,
If you would like to make the motion, you've made it. Is there a second? I don't hear a second, and unless I'm mistaken, the motion dies. Anybody else care to speak on the board?
I'll just say a couple things. In general, it is going to be a tough choice. I think there's a few names out there that are really close neck and neck for me. And part of the things I hear of the people that were speaking is a lot of conflict in what they say. So many of them are, why are we recycling the same people over and over? But then they'll go up and talk about somebody who's had a bunch of different appointments here on different committees and things, which just sounds conflicting. I think it's kind of refreshing to have some new people step up and want to do this. I was elected this last time, but prior to that, there was a vacancy, and where was everybody? Nobody stepped up to put their name in the hat at that time. And I just don't know what happened in the last year and a half that all of a sudden there's just, it's great we're having all these people, but it's not like it's been like this and people have just been ignored and not given the opportunity. And when the opportunity was here, people didn't step up. So those are just my opinions. So when the thing comes around, I'm totally open to some fresh blood up here, and I think that would be a great opportunity.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Anybody in the public like to speak?
Hi, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Linda Bazone, 7925 Foster Road, Independence Township. I really would like to say that I have really would like to see an election for this position. I know that the board isn't on board with that, but I think that, and I hear what Terry said, I think that this community was different, when you got appointed. I think not only our state government, our local government, but our state and our federal, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with our government, even at our lower level. And we're seeing a lot of nitpicking, and I think that it's really up to the community to put a trustee into place. And I think we do a lot of appointments on this committee, and I'm sure that the bylaws allow you to do that, but should you? I think that a lot of people get in positions by appointments, but really it should be the community that elects those people, and that's not happening. And now we'll have Paul Brown's appointment, then you'll want to do an appointment for Jose's position. And again, where is our voice? We're the taxpayers. We're the ones that are wanting our government to be run a certain way, and our voice isn't being heard. And I'm sure that an election isn't popular. It may cost some time, might cost some money, but again, to the community, it's worth it. We want to put people in place that we want in place, who we think have the same ideals that we have, who we feel has the same mindset that we do and want to see the community grow the way we do. Again, I just feel that appointing another person is not really in the community's best interest or the citizens' best interest. And I just would like for you to consider that instead of appointing another person.
Thank you. Oh, Paul.
And I'm glad that she brought that up. It's something I wanted to share for anyone who's not aware of it, and that's the process that would happen if we had a special election. Because we are familiar with this, because we went through it when there was an effort to appoint a supervisor last year. So if the board doesn't take, the only option the township board has is to try to make an appointment within 45 days of the vacancy. We don't have the authority to say we're just going to hold an election. We don't have the authority to do that. Can't. If we don't appoint anyone, it will go to a special election. I've heard many people say, let's have the special election. What I don't think some people realize is that special election happens by the Republican, Oakland County Republican Party board picking one Republican candidate, and the Democratic Oakland County board picking one candidate. And I think the other party, the Libertarians might pick somebody. Those are the three people who would be on the ballot, and there's no write-ins, which means only one person who was considered tonight would have an opportunity to be voted on from each party. So I don't think it gets you the result you really want, which is for our residents to make the decision in a vote. Because while there are a few residents who probably sit on, I only know a few people who are on the Republican committee. I don't know anybody on the Democratic committee for Oakland County. There's only a handful of township residents that are on that, and it's like, how many people are there? 16 people on it, on that committee? So you have almost entirely a group of people who weren't elected deciding who you're going to vote on, and you really only going to have two choices, probably one Democrat and one Republican. And so that's what happens by law. And if we could have a special election and it wasn't overly expensive, I'd vote for it right now. But we just don't have the authority to do that. And I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Paul. Good information. Jose?
Jerry, question for you. So why, when we have a special election for Mike Harris and the other Democrat, we didn't have this process? We went to a special election.
For state
Yeah, for a state rep. Why we
Governor.
didn't
Call
come?
that
The governor
election.
said that.
The
Governor.
governor
Governor
had to
called
make the
election,
decision,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
It's different for
So-
local, for the local.
Right.
For local, okay.
Right.
All right. 'Cause it was
Any other
the same.
member of the public wish to speak at this point? Yes.
Cheryl Janakis, 8990 Woodlawn Avenue. There were some good applicants, but I would like to ask every board member who already has their mind made up to ask themselves a simple question. Is a board member that you have in mind willing to carry out another term? Or are they just here to fill in the gap until the next election? Were they ever removed for a conflict of interest? Will that trustee you choose have a smooth transition when they are re-elected? What have they done for Independence Township? And do you plan on being re-elected? If your mind is set against Sam Morocco, why? Who would have been the next to succeed in 2020 election? How many residents have appealed to your integrity to do what is right for the township and the residents? We, the residents, shouldn't have to wait until 2024 and struggle with your decisions. Where would Independence Township be without Sam? What would have happened to the historical buildings? How many Myers and other big box stores would we now have? I have personally experienced his apprenticeship construction program for the high school and the difference it has made in their lives. I know one young man who was hopeless. He had a rough life. Because of Sam, he now has a good job and shows up every day. He has a wife and 2 children. This is all because of Sam. This is just who he is. He puts his heart and soul into everything. Sam has a lot of integrity. He's reliable and he's committed. He's proven that. He works well with everybody and he has experience on the board. And he is willing to stay for the long haul, not just one term. I've never seen a man with more heart for the community. He has the qualifications and he has left a big footprint in Independence Township. And we would like him to continue by being a member of the board. We respectfully implore that you all choose Sam for this position in good faith and base your decision on merits, passion, and commitment, not connections. And do this, please, for the sake of the township and us, we the residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else care to speak? Yes, sir.
David Hayward, 6764 Berwick Drive. One of the things that was stated that you didn't understand the conflict because you see a conflict between the difference of recycling people that have been here. Well, Mr. Morocco hasn't been on the board. Ms. Pilata has, Mr. Tedder has. He has not. So we don't view that as a recycling. We see that as somebody new. So maybe that will help you understand where we're all coming from. And I say we're all because Sam has a lot of people here. Mr. Morocco has a lot of people here. Why? Because these people probably voted for him in the last election. They feel that he is going to support them. You know, I stated Thursday that I wanted a special election, and now I understand Mr. Brown explained it. But I also realize now that, you know, we can't consider it or whatever, for whatever reason, we may not get the special election. But my hope is that the new supervisor, Mr. Aliaga, gets the help he needs and is successful. Mr. Brown was quoted in the Clarkston News as saying, "My desire to want to be part of Jose's success has been from day one," said Brown. "As treasurer, I think I have even that much more opportunity to help that." I spoke to Mr. Brown after our last meeting on Thursday, and he talked about how much he loves serving the community. So I would expect that Mr. Brown will support and vote for whoever Mr. Aliaga chooses for this appointment, based on Mr. Brown's desire to serve this township and his recognition of the people who elected Mr. Aliaga. Ms. Pilata stated in her interview on Thursday, "Sitting next to Trustee Aliaga all these years, the supervisor's position is way different than being a trustee. So there's a learning curve, and I would like to help him transition into that just because I already know the ropes. If Mr. Aliaga is interested in someone else's help instead of Ms. Pilates, is the board willing to no longer consider Ms. Pilata for this appointment? As she stated, she just wants to help, and if he's not interested in the help. You may not agree with the way the treasurer appointment went, but I do have to recognize that at least Mr. Brown does have some of the people's support in the township. Based on the last election, and now those voices are being represented by him, regardless. And based on the interviews and history, the only applicant that should be even considered is Mr. Morocco. He has proven that he cares about the township and the people in it. He lost a close election and clearly has half the township support based on his recent campaign. And that's what the people want. Someone that they actually voted for. Someone to represent them. This is what separates Mr. Morocco from the rest of the applicants. Even at the interviews, the applicants had no supporters present at the time, but Mr. Morocco did. Thursday was the first time I even met Sam. I have never spoken to him before. And my support for him is based on his previous campaign, his visibility, and his accomplishments in our community. That's why I stand for Mr. Morocco. And I think that we have to give the people someone that they support. And they support Sam Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak?
Can I come back again?
Well, let's see if anybody else would like to speak first. Okay, I think you probably have 2 minutes left.
Okay. Good thing I left my glasses. Thank you again for the opportunity. Linda Bazone, 7925 Foster Road, Independence Township. And thank you, Paul, for explaining, why we can't have an election, even though I'm passionate about it. But I trust that you're telling me the right thing. I do trust that. I would like to mention two things. One, I kind of watched while you guys were interviewing the two people that nobody was taking notes. So I'm assuming that you've already made up your minds who you want to. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you. I stand corrected. Absolutely. But one thing that was really on my mind and that I do want to share, I know that one of the trustees who's interested in the trustee position is Mr. Tedder. And he's a lovely gentleman. I've met him. He's very nice. But he did resign because it was a conflict of interest. And I know I did read in his resume that he's changed positions, so he feels that that second position is no longer a conflict of interest. But he still works for the same company. I work for a big company, and I know that different departments mesh. And, it's not unheard of. I work in sales. It's not unheard of from somebody from another department say, hey, I know you're in sales. I know you know the social worker at St. Joe's really well. Can you kind of help me this? So I know that happens within companies, and I feel that since he's still working for the same company, he should not be considered. That is still a conflict of interest because he is working for the same company. Second of all, since I can't get my special election, I do want to support Sam Morocco. I only met him recently, probably the last 6 months, and he just really has a passion and a love for this community. And I do agree that he has done a lot for this community, and he has a lot of passion, and I think that he'll do the right thing based on what citizens like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Barbara Plata, 5445 Ridge Trail North, Clarkston, Michigan. What a difficult job you guys have. But I'd like to comment on what Trustee Dalmothu said. And I don't...
Would you mind picking your voice up just a little bit?
I'd like to comment on what Trustee Dalmothu said. Like all of you, and I think Clerk Newbeck said the same thing, we didn't have this kind of interest at all. I had to beg people to go on boards and committees, and I actually had to beg Sam one time to come back to the Planning Commission because people weren't applying for anything. So in light of all that, I'd like to withdraw my name and wish the board the best. This is a difficult decision because you have very viable candidates. Also, I'd like to thank all of you who I've worked with over the years. It was always my pleasure to be on this township board. And the people who saw me tonight, I just want you to know that I didn't apply for this for anything other than I just want to help. So, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Paul Giampatroni. I reside at 15 Walden Road. My wife Christy and I moved here over 20 years ago, started our family here, and we have children in the community. We love Clarkston and took an interest in some of the development that's gone on. And I would like to express my support for Sam Morocco for this position for a couple of reasons. My wife, Christy, is running for Clarkston School Board, and during that process over the last couple of years since she made that decision, we've had an opportunity to meet with various members of the community, see how some of the school operations go on. We were very, very impressed with Mr. Morocco's involvement with Bailey House. And having gotten to know him, I was a former employee of the City of Detroit Planning and Development Department. So I have some experience with planning and development and with construction project management. It's very obvious that he has a very broad range of experiences, not the least of which I think is historic preservation. In a community like Clarkston and Independence Township, I think it's important, and it's been said by several of your candidates, that maintaining the nature of our community as a smaller community and not overdeveloping is a risk that we run. And I think that Mr. Morocco's previous experience with historic preservation gives him a unique experience and insight into that. I would also like to echo the sentiments of Ms. Joette Coons, who mentioned previously that Mr. Morocco was sometimes not looked at as a good candidate because he's not a team player. When we first took an interest in what was going on in the Clarkston School Board, we reached out to several school board members to try to learn more about the process of that. And one of the things that was said to us is that one of the great things about the present school board was that everybody was on the same page. We were actually horrified by that, because we know that our community is not made up of an amalgamous group of people who all feel the same way about everything. We know that we feel differently from our neighbors, and even though we've had a great relationship with our neighbors for 20 years, we don't always agree with them on anything politically or necessarily in the community. So when somebody says that everybody needs to be a team player, that goes against everything I think that our democratic process, or as Ms. Coons pointed out, our democratic republic, it doesn't stand for people who are all on the same page or who are all team players. Sometimes we need to be pushed against each other. Like the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. That's a very important concept for a deliberative body like this. And I hope that you would consider that Sam Morocco, with his experience that I've already mentioned, and with the number of supporters that he has here, people who've known him for a long period of time and people who've only known him for a short period of time, have come here to express their support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody online? Seeing nobody else, let's bring it back to the board for discussion and a potential motion. Paul?
So I want to thank Barb Pilata for both for putting her name in the ring and doing what she always does, which is what she thinks is best. And I'll share something with people. When we were trying to get appointed for supervisor, and Jose and I were in the running for that, along with others, Barb came forward and well, I mean, she basically said that neither of us should try to be appointed. We should wait for an election. Now, what you might not know is after that meeting, I went outside and hugged Barb Pilata. And I'll tell you why. For the years we worked together, which was 7 years every day, her and I disagreed often. But we always worked it out to understand we were doing what was best for the community. And I always knew that from her. And her input at the meeting is what made me be willing to make a motion to appoint someone and end the stalemate. It was because of her that I did it, even though she didn't want me to, at that point, to be the supervisor. I was okay with that. And so I will tell you that I am somewhat moved by what Joetta has said when she spoke about the founding fathers and not always agreeing with people. Okay, I understand that, and our board hasn't always agreed. I can remember times when David Lohmeyer, who used to be on the board, sat beside me. It was bad sometimes. I mean, really bad. We had to stop the meeting. I don't know if anybody remembers watching those back then, but we shook hands after the meeting. Actually, just before it ended, we said, look, we both want what's best, and we move forward. I have no doubt that Mr. Morocco has a lot of values in his knowledge and the things that he knows. But I'm lying if I sit here and say and don't tell you that all the hammering he did that I personally felt against me. And I mean, if you're going to be honest, you be honest, right? I was called Pat's puppet. What's funny to me now, and I understand what he's saying, he just thought, well, we all voted the way Pat wanted, so we must be Pat's puppets. So I'm sitting here today, and I don't take offense to it, okay? I can't ignore it completely. Who would? I'm a human being, right? And I don't feel I was ever anybody's puppet. And yet now I have someone who, and I appreciated, David, your comments, and I appreciated that. And you know I have tried to reach out and talk to you. But now I'm being told that I should vote the way Jose wants me to. So what, I become Jose's puppet? It's just like, it's not fair. It's like you want us, if it's in your favor, you want us to say it one way, but if I do it my way, you're against it. We should be able to disagree and not be so angry with each other. Because what I'm positive about is that everybody who wants to sit up here wants to do what in their mind is best for the community. I have zero doubt about that. But we're never always going to disagree. So what, and I'm sorry, we're not always going to agree, yes. She was correcting me, and when Joella was correcting me, and I respect it when she corrects people's English. So I took a long way to get to this point, but I think it's fair enough for me and to make a motion to appoint Sam Morocco and give him a shot for this board to voice their opinion. I think that's fair. And so I make a motion to appoint Sam Morocco as to fill the township trustee vacancy.
I second the motion.
Okay, any other discussion? If not,
I'll talk.
I would like,
Go ahead, Jose.
yeah, I would like to ask a question, quick question. How many people are here for San Morocco? Can I raise your hand, please? All right, so all those, all right. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, that's all I can ask.
Okay.
Secondly, Paul, I just, good point, by the way. But just so you know, I never expect you to vote in that way because you know my puppet, nobody here is my puppet or anything, clarify. When I was expecting sometimes support, sometimes doesn't mean you have to vote in my way or anything. Because, you know, there's many ways you can support me, good ideas, maybe my motion, but you don't have to vote in my way, you know, it's never that way, never my expectation. But thank you for clarifying that.
Terry.
I'm glad you did that first because it almost was just going to reiterate one comment I made. Just because people showed up in this room today isn't like, I would say it's not going to sway me that you all came because I am going to defend these people who are brand new to politics that put their name in the hat. That's not fair to them either. They never knew they could ask their friends and family to come speak on their behalf. So I just have to get that out there that people who have been in this a long time don't always get that little advantage just because people show up for them. I'm going to be fair on who we interviewed. I'm not going to let just everybody showing up here gonna be my vote because you came out in numbers? I bet if some of these people had known that they could, they would have had friends and family show up for them too. That's all I want to say on that behalf. That's
Yes.
all.
One
Yeah.
more thing. We have to, just a comment. First of all, we have to consider something very important. The people that come here, they probably have something else too. They leave right to work to come here to speak up because they care about their community. This is people that can spend their time watching football, spend time with their grandkids, their kids, but they said no. This is very important decision from the township because we're going to be appointing one and the next probably trustee in the following month. They actually spending time, gas money, miles on their car to be here and be here. So to me, it's very important. Actually, it's amazing how so many people, that's why I ask how many people is here and they raise their hand. It's important, I think. I'm not just giving them a credit to being here and speak up. I think.
I agree, but that wasn't the point I was making,
All right,
that
that's
they're here.
okay.
It was
I
the
just
point,
wanna-
speaking on behalf of a candidate, and these new candidates who've never been in politics, I'm just letting them know that they probably didn't know that they could invite people to speak on their behalf. That's all I wanted to say.
Well,
That's it.
it's going to be another opening, though. It's going to be another opening, and the same for this pool of candidates, we're going to actually pick another candidate. All right? That's correct? From this pool of people, we're going to pick another one for the
not
other
necessarily.
seat.
Not
Well, you mean
necessarily,
it's what we agree.
Because if you're
We
asking
agree
a
on
question,
it.
I'm going to
No,
answer it.
Right.
You asked a question, I'm going to answer it. I think the fact is that there is not another opening currently. There is not another opening currently, so I think it's unfair to require people to apply for an opening that doesn't exist. And once the opening occurs, then I think it's fair to allow them to come up, step up and apply.
Well, I saw they already applied. Okay, go ahead.
We waited until the deadline for write-ins, and that was last Friday. There were no certified valid write-ins that are running against Supervisor-elect Aliaga. So at that point, in my opinion, we are not keeping somebody from running against him because now there are no valid write-ins. You can write anybody's name in on the ballot next Tuesday, but it will not be a valid vote because they didn't do the necessary paperwork by the deadline. So our only candidate, our valid candidate is Jose Aliaga. So at that point, I have to disagree that I know we're not going to make an appointment at this time, but I think that the board could make a very sound decision should it want to. But in my opinion, I think we should wait until Trustee Aliaga is in that position so then he can vote. If we were to vote for both positions tonight, to fill both positions, one effective on his vacating, he would not be able to vote on that second position. So in all fairness for him, I think that's something that we should wait on. We had a total of 10 candidates at one point. We're now down to 8 candidates. It costs money and time as well for us to post, to re-interview. We have 8 candidates that we could possibly choose from for that second, unless someone chooses to withdraw between now and then. I think it would behoove us to do that, but we don't necessarily have to. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, any other comments or arguments, et cetera, with regard to the motion that's on the floor to appoint Sam Morocco? Okay, seeing none? No,
We got one.
Oh, no comment?
we're at the board now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Please call the roll.
Treasurer Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Aliaga,
Yes.
Trustee Nalamothu,
Yes.
Trustee Ritchie,
No.
Supervisor Fisher.
Yes.
And Clerk Newbeck, no. Motion carried, 4-2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to board member comments for the special meeting. We'll get another chance for board member comments at the regular meeting. Are there any other board member comments?
This
Paul?
one. I mean, I want to thank everybody, and especially all the folks who interviewed for this. There's some great candidates. And I want to thank Joette for what she had to say. It impacted me, and Sam and I have had a number of conversations, and Sam already knows, I see the value in a lot of things he knows, but we have things we disagree about too. But really, the comment from her that our founding fathers didn't agree with each other, you know, I think that's the part that got me, so welcome aboard, Sam.
Any other comments?
Yeah. First, I want to congratulate Sam Morocco for his appointment tonight. Good. Good. And thank you, everyone, to come today for your support. And always, we, the board, always open for everybody for your input. And thank you for coming. And I appreciate that a lot for all of you. Thanks. Thanks so much from the bottom of my heart. And thank you. Thank you, all of you guys.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. And we have another meeting that's started a half hour ago. But
5 minutes.
we'll take, yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute recess and come back at 6:35.